great. Just keep on going.
My goal working at the hospital was to stay there and work there for a long time. It did not work out that way.
It felt like there were eyes behind me. I felt extremely threatened.
It scared the hell out of me.
I felt that there was something evil in there.
We're in the middle of a living nightmare.
See, you got it.
Nursing assistant Ann Poolman is one of the newest staff at a nursing home for the chronically ill.
That's it, you got it.
What I loved most about the job was caring for the persons themselves. When they used to talk about what they did in the past, you know, a lot worked for factories around the area. A lot of the people we're looking after couldn't get out of bed without help.
Just keep on going. Doing great.
But as a new staff member, Ann finds herself also needing a helping hand.
Hello, Em.
Hi, how you doing?
You know, it might be a touch easier if you walked in front of your patient.
Oh, sure, yeah, I'll give it a try. That's a lot easier. There we go.
One of my colleagues, she was really friendly, really chatty. She had a really good personality, really bubbly, and she just made your shift go so well.
Doing brilliant. Yeah, keep coming.
Though Ann's been with the hospital for 6 months, she's still discovering unfamiliar corners of the building, like the area known as the back bedroom.
It's a bit chilly in here.
The back room used to be a bedroom, but it wasn't anymore.
Ann can't help but notice something unusual.
That room was, I would say, was like an icebox. It was freezing cold. Even if the heating was on, the room remained cold, which didn't make any sense at all.
Ah, that's better for you. There you go, love.
Even stranger is how her colleague reacts when she finds Ann there.
What are you doing in here? This room's out of bounds.
Sorry, I didn't know.
We were told never to put a person in there. We were never told why. We were just told patients shouldn't have been in there.
Ann is happy to follow orders. There's something about the room that's strangely unsettling.
The room just felt so heavy. It wasn't a nice atmosphere. The feeling was dread. Feeling that knowing something was there, but we couldn't actually see what was there. Made you really nervous.
Some rooms seem to just have an instinctively bad vibe about them, and certain people are able to pick up on that. Did something extremely traumatic happen there over the years? What's the negative history behind that room? We may not know this consciously, but parts of us seem to be able to pick up on those energies.
Ann shrugs off her uneasiness. She needs to stay focused on her duties.
It was a job I needed, obviously having a young child to support.
Ann is working the night shift when she becomes aware of someone else on the ward.
I heard footsteps, and I was wondering who was wandering around. Having a visitor at that time of night, you wouldn't expect anybody to actually be in the building.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, excuse me.
I saw a policeman stood just walking in front of me. I don't think he actually noticed I was actually in the building. It was as if he was just going about his own business.
Excuse me, sir.
Even more puzzling, the officer is wearing an old-fashioned uniform.
I would say his uniform wasn't as a policeman is wearing now. I had to follow him to ensure that it wasn't somebody in a Halloween costume that was wandering around the building.
Sir? Sir?
I asked him, I was like, hello, who are you? What are you doing in the building? But didn't get a reply. He did look quite pale, quite sickly.
But before she can say anything,
He just kept walking away.
Anne is alarmed to see the policeman heading to the one place she's been trying to avoid.
He'd run into the back bedroom. I didn't really want to go in. I have to go in, obviously, for person's safety. When he walked into that room, the feeling of not being welcome in that room and the feeling of just being shoved out the room, you weren't meant to be in there.
But the heavy feeling quickly becomes something else.
When I checked the room, there was nobody in the room. The room was empty, and that really scared me. Really, really scared me.
Excuse me, sir.
Strange events around the hospital have left nursing assistant Anne Poolman feeling uneasy.
Seeing something in the building is scary on its own, thinking you've got an intruder. But then seeing something and going to check it and there's nobody there is even worse. It really puts your hair on edge.
The more time that Anne and her colleagues spend around this area, the more the activity seems to escalate. It's almost as if they're directly challenging whatever entity is in that back bedroom by daring to go into its space. And it's starting to push back.
In the nights that follow, Anne continues to feel uneasy about what she's seeing.
We'd be trained to do a job, but we weren't actually trained to deal with things that can't be explained.
That's done.
She decides to confide in her colleague.
Can I have a quick word? I just wanted to ask you if you'd seen anything odd around the building recently.
When I revealed about seeing the police officer, she sort of questioned me, as if to say, what do you mean? What did you see?
Dear,
I don't know.
I'm just so tired.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right, yeah.
I would say she was sceptical. She wasn't quite a believer.
You need to get more sleep.
Okay.
Anne's colleague chalks things up to exhaustion, but Anne knows what she saw.
My first thought was, what's the next shift going to be like?
It starts off as usual, with Anne's colleague preparing a pot of tea.
There's nobody else on a night shift. There's only two of us in the building, and all the persons that we care for were all in bed.
But the shift is soon anything but routine.
My colleague said she'd seen something in the room. She described it as a shadow walking past her, and she said she heard a voice. Somebody calling out for the mom. Where's my mom gone?
No, I didn't see anything.
For a patient to actually be wandering the corridors, we would have heard them come out, getting up off the bed, which would have took them time.
When the tea she just made is missing, Anne's colleague thinks it's her.
She convinced it was me, but I hadn't moved from where I was. When I told her it wasn't me, Her reaction, her face, she went as white as a sheet. We were shocked. We were like, where's your drink gone? Couldn't find it anywhere.
At first, people tend to write this off as just pure absent-mindedness. I mislaid this cup of tea, I mislaid my phone or my car keys. But when these incidences start to mount, then you start to see a pattern and soon reach a point where you can't deny the fact that somebody is playing games with you.
But what Anne and her colleagues see next shocks them.
I actually saw a young boy. Chance of a child being there, definitely no children at that time morning.
Even more bizarre is the boy's appearance.
What he was wearing wasn't what young children of today would wear. They went back to Victorian time. We decided to follow where this young boy had run off to. Into the back bedroom and actually shut the door. And as I followed him, he wasn't actually there. There was nobody there. And knowing that just really scared the out of me, basically.
Anne and her colleague are left trying to make sense of what just happened.
We were both questioning whether we'd actually seen this child, and we were both quite frightened. Was he there? I was starting to think, what the f is going on in here?
When you have no control over the space you occupy, when you are essentially being tormented by an entity, that can be extremely scary.
Your whole body's on edge, basically.
Anne steps away from her nursing station to gather her thoughts.
I felt like it was escalating. We were getting more and more visitors throughout the night. At that point, I didn't know how much more I could take.
But when she tries to go back to the nursing station,
Excuse me.
I couldn't actually get out. The door was locked.
Anne hopes her friend isn't playing a trick on her.
Is that you? It's not funny.
It won't budge.
Is anybody there?
I tried fiddling with the lock, tried locking it, unlocking it, thinking maybe the lock had jammed, but no, the lock was absolutely fine.
It dawns on Anne that the door is jammed, not from the inside, but from the outside.
Is this somebody was holding it and wouldn't let me out?
Let me out!
I was shouting, I was screaming. I was like, can anybody hear me? Can somebody let me out, please?
Help! 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 Please let me out!
Anne!
My friend was just walking down the hallway and she actually heard me shouting and screaming.
Help! Let me out!
Said she actually saw this person holding the door. It was a lady in Victorian wear, the big flowing skirt.
I'm in here! Help! Help!
She looked like she had small blisters all over her face. It was terrifying. And just hear her footsteps running away.
The mysterious woman flees, but Anne and her colleague hesitate to follow her.
What was that?
I don't know.
We didn't go after it. We were too scared. I didn't want to see what it was. And then suddenly we heard as if chairs were scraping across the dining room floor. It scared the hell out of me. That was the spookiest thing we'd actually seen. Seeing all the chairs stacked the way they were. It was like a tower of chairs, basically.
How is this possible?
This was something from the great beyond. It scared the hell out of me.
Nursing assistant Ann Poolman is trying to cope with an escalating series of terrifying encounters on the night shift.
Are you seeing this?
I got thinking, why do they want to show themselves so much? They must want something from me. I couldn't take this anymore. I had to find out what was going on.
Ann reluctantly speaks to her supervisor.
Management basically told me it was my mind playing tricks. Being on a night shift, obviously I was tired. Maybe I'd fallen asleep. Maybe it was all in my mind. And I'm worried I'm going to lose my job because obviously a night shift, you can't be asleep. You can't be tired. You got to be focused on your job.
Ann decides to take drastic action and tries to communicate with those spirits who are haunting her.
I was terrified. I didn't know what I was going to bring forward. I didn't know what was going to appear in front of me. I didn't know what I was going to hear.
Is anyone there?
I was alone while I was doing this, which scared me more.
Show me a sign of your presence. Is anyone there?
I just called out, asked whoever was in the building, would you come forward? Would you show yourself? Would you speak to me? I sat there and waited, and the next thing I know, books just started flying off the bookshelf. These books just started flying off with nobody there to actually move them.
After the shock, Ann calms herself, then decides to tell her colleague about what she experienced.
What was that?
Ann fears that whatever she conjured is still there.
Did you hear that?
What we heard was actually coming towards us. It wasn't a human, it was more of a beast sound, an animal. It's like something growling. Whatever was there, it was something dark. And the grunting we're hearing, it was as if it was on top of us. It was so loud.
Doesn't feel good.
Even though we wanted to run, we couldn't run. We were basically frozen to the spot where we were. We actually saw what I can describe as a black mass. The shape of it, I want to say, was a blob. I can't say it was human-like, because it wasn't. I would say it felt like a car driving at high speed between us. I realised I made a big mistake trying to contact them. I'd actually summoned up something really dark and extremely dangerous.
The amorphous black mass is something that's very prevalent at haunted locations. It's some sort of entity that's manifesting in our world in a way which we don't completely understand yet. These black masses tend to be very intimidating for those who see them. They don't have any human characteristics, and the way that we are all psychologically wired, we tend to fear that, and I think rightfully so.
We felt as though it was angry. We thought it was going to hurt us. I was absolutely terrified.
Then, as quickly as it appeared, the presence is gone.
We could barely speak words. We couldn't speak to each other. We were shaking on the spot. I've never been so scared in my life. My colleague never came back after that night. I never saw it work again. I came back. I needed the job. I stayed on at the unit and I worked at the building for a few more years. And then I transferred to another unit because the unit shut down. The spirits that we saw, I feel, were coming to us because obviously they had a traumatic death. They were poorly, they were abandoned, they lost all family. They never saw anybody apart from who was in the hospital with them. And I feel they had a story to tell. They'd been abandoned, they had nobody to care for them anymore, and they wanted to know why.
It's almost 3 a.m. Emergency medical technician Trish Quinn and her colleague are getting ready to call it quits for the night.
Almost home time.
She's new to the job, but catching on quickly.
You forgetting something?
Yeah. It's my job now, right? What? Hold on a second.
Oh, you are supposed to be doing the heavy lifting.
Growing up, my parents were both ski patrol. And so I would always hear stories about how they would do first aid up on mountains.
Buying it, too.
So I got very interested in becoming an EMT. My partner was a seasoned EMT with some experience, but I was still considered a rookie.
I'll be doing the heavy lifting here, opening the door, okay? Yeah, don't you worry about it. I got it.
We had picked up a patient from a nursing home and transported him to the hospital so they could have a procedure done. We dropped off the patient on the 7th floor, pushed the button to go down to the ground floor where our ambulance was located.
The elevator stops on an unrequested floor.
It was just stopped like a normal floor, and the elevator didn't move.
It's the 6th floor.
The 6th floor is a disused section of the hospital.
They had closed that floor several months before I even started on the ambulance, and it had been vacant for over a year.
Nothing, right?
There was never patients on that floor, and nurses, janitors, nobody ever went up there.
Trish and her partner have heard stories about the 6th floor.
We had heard that none of the staff and none of the nurses would ever do a shift up there. It was known to have had unusual paranormal happenings up there. My partner was not a believer in the paranormal. He didn't believe that there was truly anything after death.
Trish is puzzled. The elevator isn't supposed to stop there.
The 6th floor was known to have been locked off, that no matter how many times you ever pushed the button to try and go there, it would never stop.
And it hit the emergency.
Yeah, good idea.
Even more bizarre, the elevator isn't responding.
There's nothing.
There was no elevator malfunction, no lights flickering, no bells going off. We pushed a button and it wouldn't go down.
One of the most common events that happen during paranormal investigations is that equipment will malfunction. And the theory behind this is that there's a disruption by a spirit, whether intentional or a side effect of it being present.
Trish's partner believes the situation can be easily solved.
My partner had been in Vietnam as a medic for 2 tours.
Dispatch, it's Stan.
We didn't have cell phones back in '92, so we grabbed our radios and we tried to call for our dispatch, call for help, but our radios absolutely would not work inside the building.
Dispatch?
No, that's weird.
That is weird.
Check it out.
Yeah.
So we had really kind of no choice to go ahead and step off and see why the elevator had stopped. It felt like the temperature had changed and had dropped and gotten colder. It felt like there were eyes behind me. Like you think that there's somebody there and you get that dread sense of, do I turn around or do I ignore it?
I don't know what it is.
and then suddenly the door shut behind us.
What the hell is that?
We realized that we had no radio, there's no power up there, there's nobody else up there but us. We were trapped there.
EMT Trish Quinn and her partner Stan are stranded on the one floor of the hospital that is completely abandoned.
And we were trapped there in a place that was known to be haunted.
They need to find a way out. The stairs aren't an option.
They were locked from the stairwell. You couldn't get into the 6th floor. We had tried before, and they were locked if you were going up the stairs.
They decide to make their way down the hall to the nurse's station.
We had to see if we could find a working telephone. It was extremely unnerving. You start realizing that you're stuck up there, your heart starts beating.
This is weird. Yeah,
It's dark. And there's dead silence. And there's nothing up there.
Oh, it's freezing.
It felt like there was movement in the air, like there was somebody moving behind us.
Stan, did you see that?
I looked over and I swear I had seen like a shadow go from one side of the hallway to the other. The shadow was human form and size, but it moved very quickly and there was no sound. The hairs on my arms were standing up.
I didn't see anything. No. You're starting to freak me out.
I saw that my partner hadn't seen anything, so I tried to calm myself and saying I was just seeing things.
It's probably nothing.
That it couldn't have been real, that I didn't just see what I thought I saw.
Jeez.
It's been nothing.
It was extremely unnerving.
Most researchers in the paranormal would probably agree that areas that don't have any human activity for quite some time, that are inhibited by ghosts, become very active once a living person enters that area. Quite often, the dead like to have fun with the living and may do things just to antagonize them or to try to scare them.
Trish can't shake the feeling that they're not alone.
I felt like there was somebody behind me and I could feel their breath. It felt like every hair on the top of my head was standing up. The heart was going about 100 beats a minute. It was a mixture between excitement and being scared shitless.
Check the phone.
We tried the phones to pick them up to see if we could get a dial tone.
Tell me there's somebody there.
It's just dead.
So we were standing there and we were trying to figure out what we could do and how we could get back downstairs now quickly.
Stan?
And then the doors slammed shut. One by one, they slammed. Like somebody was upset and mad and just slammed the doors. There was no chance it was the wind. There were no windows open in any of those rooms. I felt extremely threatened. I screamed like a little girl, and all I wanted to do was, I wanted out of there. 20 doors slammed shut, all in succession on either side. One room, then the next room, and it was boom, 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 all at once. That scared the absolute out of us.
Don't look back, come on.
Whoever or whatever is up on that floor made it very clear that we were not welcome that that was their floor and we needed to leave. We're in the middle of a living nightmare.
Don't look, come on.
EMT Trish Quinn and her partner are being stalked by a paranormal entity who is hell-bent on terrorizing them.
We were so terrified at that point of whatever just slammed those doors was still down there. There was absolutely no other way to get off of that floor besides the elevators. And we started pounding on the doors, trying to hopefully get somebody's attention on a floor below us or a floor above us. My partner actually had a look on his face like he was absolutely terrified as I was.
People have to realize that ghosts come with their own emotions, their own personalities. So when you have two people introduce themselves to an area generally void of other people, that might be disruptive to the lives of any spirits on that floor. And frankly, they just want them out.
That shouldn't
I feel
happen.
good about this.
Suddenly, the elevator doors opened. Older gentleman, he steps off of the elevators, and it was one of the security guards that worked down in the ER. He had noticed that we were missing, so he decided to go ahead, and he had the keys for access to stop at the 6th floor. And he just had the gut feeling, and he stopped to see if we were there.
My God.
He never asked us why we were there. Whatever had happened, he didn't know, but all he did was he looked at us and he goes, "The ghosts love to mess with the rookies." And he took us down the elevator. And me and my partner did not talk about anything that happened until we were away from the hospital.
The hell was that?
Let's just get out of here.
Yeah, good idea.
So once we got back down to the ambulance, we did not have another call pending. So my partner, he lit up a cigarette and all he said was, "What the just happened?" And he then proceeded to say, "I have no idea what to believe now."
Her colleague is badly shaken by the experience.
After this experience, my partner only stayed on the ambulance for another 2 weeks, and then he decided that it was actually time to retire. I think after this experience, it made him realize that there was a lot more out there that he maybe not be able to explain. After what we saw up on that 6th floor, it really did change his mind about the paranormal.
What just happened?
Trish has tried to make sense of what happened that night.
Whatever was there was not a feeling of good and happy. It was a feeling of malice and anger. This was a dark entity. I believe that it was very dangerous and had the potential to truly hurt people. I never went back there again.
Nurse Cheyenne has landed her dream job working in a small rural hospital, a short drive from where she grew up.
What drew me to nursing was taking care of people. I just feel drawn to help others and take care of people and to help them to feel better. My goal working at the hospital was to stay there and work there for a long time. It did not work out that way.
Cheyenne's shift begins when most people's end.
I loved working the night shift because I am a night person.
But there's one job on the night shift that no one wants to do.
I need you to go grab me some more pain meds.
Cheyenne's hospital sits adjacent to a large correctional institution. A surplus prison cell block now serves as storage for the hospital's medical products.
The prison wing was fully stocked, and if we needed supplies, we could run over there. The medication was housed in the nurse's station. I had to walk into the prison wing. Door clicks. I go to get the medication.
But the rumors of the prison wing being haunted sets Cheyenne on edge, reminding her of something she's worked hard to forget.
When I was 6 years old, we lived in this small apartment where the only bathroom was upstairs. I wasn't usually a scared child, but I was on this day. I didn't hear or see anything. I just had a feeling that made me be fearful. I wasn't sure what to expect. It was confusing to be that afraid in my own house. The lights in the bathroom, when you flip the switch, you know, sometimes they kind of flicker before they come on. And that's when I saw it. He had horns, and he was red like a typical devil.
Children seem to see a much wider variety of spirits, ghosts, angels, spirit guides, where as an adult, people tend to see more earthbound spirits.
We just stared at each other. I just was so frightened that it felt like an eternity. I was full of ultimate terror at that point. And then it disappeared. This experience stayed with me. It stayed with me forever.
These memories make Cheyenne's walk through the prison wing of the hospital all the more difficult.
Walking there by myself was very frightening. The feeling in there was somebody is watching you that you can't see. There was that thickness in the air when it just doesn't feel right. I knew it was completely empty. There were no patients in there. There was no staff in there.
But then, Cheyenne hears something she cannot explain.
When I heard the whistling, it absolutely terrified me.
Nurse Cheyenne Barcala has been sent to a prison ward of her hospital, where she cannot explain what she hears.
Actually hearing that whistling just kind of made me feel like that validated my feelings like somebody was watching me. I felt that there was something that was evil in there. I didn't want to look because I didn't want to see what it was or could be. And so I ran to get back to my unit. It was extremely terrifying. That night, I told myself I would never go in there by myself again.
But before Cheyenne has a chance to recover, she's face to face with something else she cannot explain.
What are you looking at? What's going on?
When I was standing at the nurse's station, I had noticed something in the corner of my eye.
Do you not see him?
See what?
It appeared to be a man standing in the doorway.
There's no one there.
But when I would fully look up at it, there wouldn't be anything there. I was a little confused because there was nobody standing in the doorway, and I didn't think it was a patient or a visitor. I wasn't too sure what was going on.
People see entities in all kinds of situations, and many times they'll see them walk right through a wall. Anybody who works in any emergency services, and especially in a setting like a hospital, they're very perceptive, very intuitive to all kinds of spiritual energy.
Well, I haven't heard anything.
So as I'm standing there talking with her, I could see there was a man in a gown who was walking across the room.
Cheyenne.
Keeping his head straight, he didn't turn and look at me. He just walked as if he had a purpose to get to the other side of the room.
Who do we have in bed for?
No one. There's no one in bed for.
Are you sure?
And I stopped talking, and I'm pretty sure my mouth stayed open. I knew I was dealing with something not of this world.
Do you not see it?
See what? I don't see anything. Are you sure you're feeling okay?
That moment was definitely a holy moment. I was trying to understand what I had seen.
He was in here, I swear.
I knew that nobody was in there, and I knew that that room was empty.
Come back, it's all good.
And so I knew that I had just seen a ghost. It's terrifying when you can't explain what had happened and what you saw.
It's okay, hon. Maybe just take the rest of the night off.
Shortly after seeing the apparition of the man, I ended up changing jobs. After these experiences, I haven't been able to sleep in the dark. I do have to leave a light on. These experiences also intrigue me. It draws me to want to know more about what happens to us when we die.